Hey guys, I wanted to do this quick tactical video addressing this growing trend that the newest signing at Manchester United will suddenly be the solution to all of our problems. The latest name in the frame is Manuel Ugarte, who is supposed to shore up our midfield suddenly. I'm here to explain why that will not be the case. So here we have the team who started against Liverpool with one change. The scapegoat, Casemiro, is not in my lineup, and instead we have Manuel Ugarte. So we go with the same centre-back pairing. We have Mazraoui and Dalot out wide, even though it is speculated that Luke Shaw's ready to return. Mainu continues in midfield with Fernandes. Ugarte comes in for Casemiro, and up top we have the same front three with Garnacho, Rashford and Xerxes, even though it is speculated that Haaland is ready to return, and even though Marcus Rashford has put in 3 horrible performances so far, and I would drop him and keep Ahmad in the team. But after Marcus Rashford's PR team cleverly released videos of him doing extra training and working hard, which you should do because you haven't been picked for England and you are playing shit, I still believe that he will get the nod to start in this position because we are paying him ridiculous wages and he released some training videos. So Rashford will continue, in my opinion. So Ugarte is the one change that I am expecting. Now, the reason why we lost the game to Liverpool, other than Liverpool having better players than Manchester United, was that we decided to implement this tactic where in the case of the Liverpool game, Casemiro dropped in between the two centre-backs and acted as a third centre-back, splitting De Ligt and Martinez, whilst our full-backs pushed up the pitch and Garnacho and Rashford pushed up the pitch to give us additional attacking options. Now, the idea would be that Casemiro was this ball-playing CDM who could suddenly spray the ball out to the likes of Garnacho, Rashford, and our fullbacks would provide us with extra width when we're in attack, giving us a numbers advantage when we are on the attack. The problem is Casemiro's never done that in his career. Casemiro was signed to be a destroyer, a CDM who breaks up the play. That's all he's ever done, and that's all he ever should be. And he's been the best in the world at it one of the best in the world at it for the past 10, 15 years. So to suddenly have Casemiro dropping in between the two centre-backs and being expected to play these wonderful cross-field passes isn't really Casemiro's fault, but he didn't do a good job of it. He was the scapegoat, and he was blamed for this defeat against Liverpool. Now, Manuel Ugarte is expected to come in, and I assume we're going to continue this tactic. Here's a couple of problems. Manuel Ugarte isn't that player either. Manuel Ugarte is also a Uruguayan destroyer, a central defensive midfield player who is there to break up the play. The reason he's been sold to Manchester United from Paris Saint-Germain is because Paris Saint-Germain want ball-playing central midfielders, 3 of them, which is exactly what Liverpool had in the game where they beat us. Those 3 central midfield players, they all rotated their position, and all of them could play in front of the back 4, they could cover their man, but they also were comfortable on the ball. PSG wants to dominate games, they want to dominate possession, and everybody now, whilst they do want 3 central midfielders, they do want someone similar to Rodri who's also able to get in there and win the ball back. They don't want the Ugartes of the world, and they don't want the Casemiros in the world, because this is now a somewhat dated player in modern day football. But Erik ten Hag has signed Ugarte. Ugarte is another destroyer. Ugarte is exactly the same player as Casemiro, except he's younger. So if supporters are expecting Manuel Ugarte to suddenly be the solution, he's going to drop in between the centre-backs and he's going to start playing these balls across the pitch to find our wingers and give us attacking advantages. Manuel Ugarte ain't the guy. Somebody hasn't done their research here. So unless we're going to have a tactical shift where we no longer do this, I don't understand fully the signing of Manuel Ugarte. Now, one of the key reasons why we are in this position is because Manchester United last summer signed Andre Onana. Andre Onana was preferred to David De Gea in the goalkeeping position. Now, I don't think anybody in the planet was stupid enough to honestly believe that Andre Onana was a better shot stopper than David De Gea, because he wasn't then and he isn't now. Even though David De Gea has had a year out of the game, I would much rather have David De Gea in the sticks stopping shots than Andre Onana. The bonus that Andre Onana was supposed to bring to this lineup was the fact that he was supposed to be this ball-playing goalkeeper, this sweeper keeper who was able to bring the ball out, and he was supposed to play these balls. What we've seen in his first season, Andre Onana is not capable of doing that in the Premier League. Maybe you were able to do that in Serie A. Maybe you weren't pressed as much by the attackers. Maybe you had more time on the ball. Maybe players were making better runs for you. I don't know why, but Andre Onana is not doing this for Manchester United. He is not this sweeper keeper who's setting up attacks. In fact, if anything, Andre Onana takes way too much time on the ball. If you go to Old Trafford and you actually watch the games, Andre Onana often slows things down and is responsible for not getting the ball out quick enough. So Andre Onana is not providing something that he was signed to do, and he's also conceding goals that David De Gea would save, making this a very questionable signing, and one that I would quite comfortably deem a failure. So there are big problems at Manchester United. We cannot rely on Ugarte to do what Casemiro couldn't do against Liverpool, and Andre Onana has ultimately failed as a signing because he is a worse shot stopper than David De Gea and does not provide us with the sweeper keeper stuff that he was supposed to do. So what are the other problems at Man United? Because that's just not how the game was lost. Well, if you watch the game against Manchester City, Manchester United decided to press Manchester City solely in this area of the pitch. So if we look at this as Manchester United's defensive half of the pitch, Erik ten Hag set Manchester United up to respect Manchester City, and we did not let them play the ball around and dominate possession in this part of the pitch. Here they can have it absolutely fine, but here Manchester United sat in front of their back four and they pressed and they were a nuisance, and they did not let Manchester City maintain possession and just pass the ball around in this area. So we pressed, but we pressed here. Now, this isn't how Erik ten Hag wants to play long term. This isn't how Ineos wants us to play. This is why we have been given all of this money, because we are Manchester United. And at the end of the day, we're supposed to be a front foot team who aren't supposed to sit in here with a low block and press teams with a midfield in front of our back four. The expectation is that we are supposed to press teams higher up the pitch with our midfielders joining in with our wingers. So what we had against Man City was the first line of the press was here, but the second line of the press was way back here. So ultimately, we conceded this area of the pitch. Against Liverpool, we pressed here with the forwards, we pressed here with the fullbacks, and we pressed here with the entire midfield. What Liverpool did, because they are better than us and they have the better midfield, is that they played through the press, and Manchester United were constantly outnumbered because we weren't able to press Liverpool effectively in this area of the pitch. Now, this is something that we will need to practice and get better at. And if we don't, it is going to be a very difficult teething process. And Manchester United fans have to concede the fact that we are not going to be in the Champions League again next season. But does Erik ten Hag have that much time? Ultimately, I am of the belief that Erik ten Hag has a tactic that works, and it is the emergency break glass tactic of setting up your press here and here and making Manchester United more compact, defensive and more difficult to beat. And when we do need to break that glass, when we do need to break the emergency glass, this tactic has worked in big games. It worked against Liverpool in the FA Cup when we knocked him out, and it worked in the FA Cup final, but it is not the way that Erik ten Hag wants to play as the Manchester United manager. It's not the Ajax way, it's not the Manchester United way. So we are torn between two styles. One which works but is seen as negative, and one which doesn't work, which may work if given time, but the manager does not have time because he had an 8th place finish last season, and no matter how many times he wants to say he won 2 trophies, he doesn't have the time to lose games. So it's a big problem. I don't know how we're going to solve it. But ultimately, what I can tell you is Manuel Ugarte dropping in and doing what Casemiro did in the game against Liverpool isn't going to work and isn't going to be the solution to Manchester United's problems. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.